Hello, Life Groups. Welcome back and thank you for joining us as we wrap up our Running on Empty series. Now, in this series, we've been talking about negative emotions that, if they're left unchecked, can simply wear us out. We've covered things like busyness, anger, depression, anxiety, shame, loneliness, discontentment, and pride. And today, we're talking about hate and how hate can be absolutely detrimental to our lives. Now, just like we talked about with anger, Scripture does allow space and does allow some time that hate is necessary or hate is allowed. For example, we should hate what opposes God. Not with a malicious attitude, but with anger and hate that reflects an agreement with God's opposition to evil. Scripture tells us that God is love, but he also makes it very clear that God hates evil. God hates idolatry. God hates sin. However, hating evil and sin does not give us the right to treat people as less. It doesn't give us a platform or a pedestal to put others down. See, the type of hate that we're talking about today is often rooted in fear, anger, or even misunderstanding. Hate can manifest personally, socially, or even globally against individuals, groups, or nations. And we look at the political climate in the world around us and we know exactly what that looks like and what that means. This past weekend, Pastor Derek talked about 3 biblical ways to overcome the corrosive nature of hate. First, recognize the destructive power of hate. The story of Cain and Abel in Genesis 4 demonstrates the destructive power of jealousy and hate, and how ultimately Cain's hate for his brother and the jealousy of his brother led to violence, loss, and separation from God. Secondly, understand the healing power of forgiveness. Forgiveness is the antidote and breaks the cycle of hate. Instead of holding on to a grudge or holding on to bitterness, we're called to forgive, just as Jesus forgave us. Jesus offers a perfect example of this in Luke 23, where he is hanging on the cross, surrounded by people who are mocking him, people who hated him, and instead of cursing them or instead of saying anything to him, he simply said, "Father, forgive them." Lastly, we overcome hate with love. One of the hardest parts for us in offering forgiveness is that we don't feel like justice is being served or justice is done if we just forgive whoever hurts us. But the reality is that we're never meant to take matters into our own hands in the first place. We don't get to be judge, jury, and executioner. Paul tells us in Romans 12 to be careful and to do what is right. And if at all possible, as long as it depends on us, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone and don't take revenge. See, trusting God's justice frees us from the need to retaliate. God will ultimately handle justice, and we can trust God to judge fairly. Our role is to act in love, leaving revenge and retribution in God's hands. Enjoy your discussion today.